Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you feeling?
Fantastical. How are you?
Good. I'm wearing this just, I don't want, if you're in quarantine, I don't want to.
I'm highly offended. I had one little lapse in judgment to where I've been quarantining this entire time, and then obviously had a little get together of other people that were quarantining, but somebody did test positive recently. So I spent my 33rd birthday with a swab up my nose. My asshole puckered a little bit, but
Is there, God, my glasses are fogging up and I can't read.
I'm just gonna say your glasses are fogging. Take your mask off.
Is there any better way to spend a 33rd birthday?
No, I mean I'm pretty impressed with my 33rd.
Yeah. Well, I miss you. I'm sad that we can't be together.
I know I miss you too, but
In 2 weeks we will be, hopefully.
yes. Well,
We
I'm waiting
can
for.
test back.
I'm hoping the test come back negative. I mean, we still
Right.
did social distance. We were outside, but it's just a precaution.
It happens, and I think as people start to go out and expand their bubble a little bit, that's what the Prime Minister of New Zealand, I love her. She says your bubble. So as you expand your bubble a little bit, things like that are going to happen. And you called me yesterday, and you're like, so what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I think we just need to quarantine. You need to quarantine, and we do this virtually, which takes
I'm
away
gonna
a lot
pop
of
your
it.
bubble.
What?
What? So I'm gonna pop your bubble.
That sounds inappropriate, but okay.
Aren't we both?
Yeah. Oh God. Also, that's a really cool background.
Oh, thank you. I'm pretty impressed. Shout out to Beth, my sister-in-law. She got it for me for Christmas.
Very cool.
And of course, the other things are my curtains you see all the time.
Well, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm loving the chia pets back there.
Oh yes, the Golden Girl chia pets. It's the classic case of any family or friend that is out and about and they see something Golden Girls related, they just buy it for me, which I'm totally appreciative. I have doubles of a lot of things, but I will never say no to any of those things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's good. Yeah.
I want to see next time you have to have like the wig, shirt, the chia pet, all of it. You have to rock the whole costume.
Maybe that'll be like our 5th episode or something, because it takes time for the chia pet to grow also.
Yeah, it's true. You better start watering that thing now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, good. So, but you're feeling good?
I am. I'm feeling good, yes.
Okay, good. So we wanted to just say a quick thank you to everybody who watched the video that we did, the very rough video that we did.
Very rough.
Funny. I didn't get any people that found it offensive, or if they did, they haven't told me. So
yeah, they might just be scared still, but
don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid of us.
The what?
Don't be afraid of us.
Yeah. Well, no, be very afraid. So thank you for the views, the likes, the comments. It was really cool to read all of those. So like our page, we started sharing random articles and things of that sort. All politics related. So again, as we said before, you're gonna laugh, you might learn something, or you're gonna hate us. So it is what it is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And there's, we do agree on a lot, but there's going to be plenty of topics that you and I do not agree on. And I think that's like the best thing, that we could bring attention to having differences of opinions, and we're still best friends and can go on and respect each other. And I think more people need to learn that. It took me a while to learn that, to be able to just respect other people's opinions. And, I'm excited for this.
Yes, me too. So we're going to dive right in. So ready. Meg, what do you want to talk about?
My topic is Black on Black crime. And, I noticed a lot of times the first response that people have when you do mention anything with the protests or Black Lives Matter, the first thing people mention is, well, Blacks kill each other all the time in their own communities, and nobody, protests that. And I find that actually pretty offensive. I'm not gonna lie, when I very first heard it, for a split second, I was like, there is a lot of crime. But I was like, I'm not going to have that opinion without doing some background. And I think that's what we all forget, that you could have an opinion on something, but just make sure you have facts, stats, anything to back it up.
Those pesky things called facts.
Those pesky things. So obviously the first thing that I did when, after I read that numerous times online and heard it from a million different people, I started doing research. And one of the things that came up, it's, 90% of Black murder victims are actually killed by Blacks. and 83% of white murder victims are killed by whites.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you're looking at, obviously black on black crime and white on white crime. And then you go all the way down the list. Majority of violent crimes are committed black on black, white on white, Latino on Latino, Asian on Asian, and so on. You get the point.
Right.
So these facts, like, it's just the point that so many people are just trying to say that blacks victimize blacks in their own community, and that people do nothing about it, it's mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you start, if anybody has ever opened up any book, criminal justice, listen to a professor, and not just, Googled something, something that was actually fact-based. You start to see that violent crime is usually within the same racial group, and statistically, people victimize in their own neighborhoods, and it's because of the matter of opportunity and proximity. So you're going to have, if you have a black community, because so many of our communities, they're not diverse. People do say like, oh, everything's diverse. It's not. You do have black communities, Hispanic communities, white communities, and that's how it is. And because of opportunity and proximity, you're going to have more crimes in certain areas, but it's not based off of the color of someone's skin. Crime is directly, and it's a fact that crime is directly related to poverty. Not being black, not being white, not being Hispanic, it has to do with poverty. And unfortunately, poverty is obviously more predominant in black and Hispanic communities. So yeah, you're going to have more crime or violent crime in these communities based off of poverty, not based off of the color of your skin. It just so happens that poverty is in these black communities and Hispanic communities. Okay. So that's what it is. It's not just because they're black, they're all killing each other. No, which I just think it's asinine that people, I think it's absolutely asinine that I'm just blacks killing blacks everywhere. It's mind blowing. And the crazy thing is that we actually live in a country that the poverty rate in black communities is 2 times more than in a white community. So you already have, they're, 2 times more likely. And then when you add poverty in, and these are all facts again, you add poverty into the situation, impoverished communities, you have violent crimes because it's 2 times more likely in poverty-stricken communities. So now you're just doubling that. Yep. One of the things, it's like people just don't realize that systemic racism is a huge factor. So between education, healthcare, and I know there's things that you could touch on with healthcare, education, healthcare, work,
access to food,
healthy
food,
so much stuff, incarceration, employment, just everything, is systemic racism. And so when you don't have money being funneled into these communities, it's going to cause poverty, and it's going to cause more violent crimes. And which loops all the way back around, how when they're sitting there saying like, oh, but they don't have people in these communities that are going to stand up and, protest this crime. And it's just not factual.
Right.
And one of the first things that I bring up to people is like, oh, so you looked up these communities or these organizations, because obviously there's a million different non-for-profits for every different category that you're going to look at. So I ask oh, did you look up any of the non-for-profits, on the West Side or on the South Side, in these communities that you're talking about? Mm-hmm. And they can't name one. And with just a quick Google search, just a quick one, I could name over 30 of them. I'm not obviously going to go down the entire list of 30. I could go off
we could post something on the page that has those.
I definitely can. I do want to give a little shout out to my top favorite 5. My number 1 is My Block, My Hood, My City. Definitely love that group. And then you have Kids, Good Kids, Mad City. You have The Tribe, you have Rage, and then you have Mothers Against Senseless Killings. And these non-for-profit organizations, they get together and go in these communities and they march together. They put together like different fundraisers. They sit with kids and teach them like different skills and like how to like interact in communities, because they're just not taught this. They're not taught anything in school. Like their classrooms are jam packed. They don't have their teacher. Oh my God, you'll have one teacher to 50 to 60 students.
Well, and you talk about the systemic piece of that is, school funding is based on property taxes and I would say unfairly allocated. And so you have schools in predominantly Black communities that are not getting the amount of funding that they need.
No.
And so it's at no fault of the teachers. It's a system that needs to be fixed. So
it really is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it comes full circle. Like when you start talking about the statistics, and then crime is directly related to poverty, and then it just comes full circle. And you do have these groups that are out there that are trying, but in these neighborhoods, they don't have access to large media outlets. They don't have access to lobbyists in state capitals or Washington to be able to fight for things that they need in their communities.
Right.
They work amongst themselves. They have access to like the mayor's office, the alderman's office. They have that access, but other than that, like, I don't see all of us out there just helping them and going in there. No, it's so easy to just sit back and say, Black on Black, they kill each other, so why should we support Black on Black, or Black Lives Matter? And there's also a difference between a criminal that is killing somebody than a police officer that's taking an unarmed Black man or woman's life. There's a huge difference.
I would agree. Yeah. I think that it's interesting that the Black on Black reference always comes up whenever there is something like a police killing that we're talking about, or a white on Black crime. It seems to me, based on what I've seen on, in general, just Facebook timeline or just general news, those Black on Black crimes only come up when there is some type of scrutiny against another type of crime, and it's a way to deflect. And you did mention the Black Lives Matter movement, and one of the other deflection pieces that I've heard and seen far too often is that all lives matter.
Oh God.
Right.
It's just, right?
So I read this analogy, which I thought was fairly clarifying. So let's say, God forbid, your house is on fire, and you call 911, the fire department comes, and instead of just focusing on your house, they start spraying down every house on the block. Your house gets some water, but it's not getting all of the water. And you go, hello, my house is on fire. And they go, well, all houses matter. And so here we are spraying all of these houses. Yours is burning to the ground.
Right.
And so it's like, sure, yes, lives matter. But in that moment, you mattered. Your house mattered. And in this moment, it's the Black lives that matter right now. These are the people that have needed our help for arguably the last 400 years.
Right.
But right now, it's coming to a point where I think we are seeing some change, rightfully so. And they're angry, and also rightfully so. And to the folks who are saying all lives matter, if all lives matter, what about the tens of thousands of kids that are in concentration camps at our border?
Right.
If all lives matter,
nobody wants to bring that up.
Why are you refusing to wear a mask if the mask protects other people more so than you, but you still refuse to wear it?
Right.
And why don't people have health care? Like, if all lives matter, then that's just not.
So it doesn't add up. It doesn't hold any water.
No,
if you're going to say that, actually back it up. Something that I was talking with Katie about, and she said that she saw this meme, and it was the same thing. It was like, if you could take a pill that could, help diminish like the effects of you like getting COVID by like 5 times, like, would you take that? And of course, everybody would be like, absolutely, I'd take that pill and make sure I don't get COVID, or at least, fight against it. And it's like, yeah, it's called a fucking mask. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's what it is.
Right.
So if you're going to say, yeah, I'll take that pill so I don't get COVID, then wear a mask and don't complain about it.
Exactly. Precisely. Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's okay. Just take the reins, Dan. It's your show. Damn it.
It's not my show at all. No, actually,
I'm kidding.
the brains behind all of us. So.
I'm kidding. You always have to interject, because otherwise I'll go on my tyrants over here, and I'll flip this laptop so fast.
This will be a 6-hour show. It'll be great.
It will. So you always know when to bring me back in for a little bit.
That's what I'm here for.
Um, no, I was just kind of like wrapping up just a little bit of, you know, in these communities, there are groups. So don't ever sit there and say, well, they don't protest. They do. There's groups, there's non-for-profit organizations, they're out there. There's mothers marching alongside of each other. And it's not just marching. They're not marching. They're doing everyday things to where vacant lots, they've turned vacant lots into little safe havens, you know, for kids to go to. They've taken even, you know, LGBTQA, like Black youth, and they've taken them because obviously like they're attacked more. They've taken them into safe havens to be able to talk to them and teach them to be okay with like who they are. My block, my hood, my city had literally, they go and they talk to the young community, and they'll grab a young kid off the street and say, what can you do? And I'm going to completely butcher exactly what his phrase is. His phrase is amazing, and I feel horrible. So maybe we could add that in there. But it's like, what could you do? The smallest thing, what you could do right now to make a difference. You know, not something big planned out, like just something small. And it has these kids, like the first thing, like, okay, you see that piece of garbage on the street out in front of your house or your neighbor's house, go pick it up. Yeah. You know, make it better. And these kids are doing it. And it's like,
or the my block, they are doing. And to your point, I've seen them from when they started, yeah. And they've been super great about getting coverage across the board in terms of media and just being put into the forefront of their messaging. And it's been really interesting to see. The youth, right. Thank you, youth.
Right, exactly.
We're not a part of that anymore. So thank you, youth.
You know, just one little thing that I wanted to touch on too, when you're just talking about, you know, systemic racism and systemic oppression and then poverty in these communities and stuff. And you take a young Black man or woman, and a lot of them, yes, they do this, but do you think you want to jump on a bus and go, because there's not a lot of things in the community, you know, jobs, there's not a lot of jobs in the community. So do you think somebody would rather jump on a bus, go miles away for a job making $10 an hour at some corporate center, you know, doing whatever, no benefits, nothing, take that bus back every day, barely have a paycheck, and then steps off that bus and sees a gangbanger slinging dope or doing, you know, whatever drugs, like whatever, because you have that in every neighborhood when it comes to poverty, Black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. And you have a drug dealer there that's making bank, making more than a lot of people. And that kid that doesn't have the guidance and doesn't have the resources in these neighborhoods is going to get off that bus. Who wouldn't want that opportunity to be like, yeah, I'd rather go work with him and make money and maybe support my family or have things that everybody else has that I don't have, rather than to jump on this bus and go work for this corporation making $10 an hour, because let's face it, nobody wants to raise our minimum wage, because let's keep that gap.
We can add that to another session. I think that's a whole other...
See, I'm going on my tangent again.
But we wouldn't do it justice if we tried to talk about it right now. It needs more time.
I know. See? Yeah. So yeah, what kid wouldn't want to do that? I would. If I was in that position, I think that would be a better, you know, like, not saying that we condone that like whatsoever, but it's the temptation. It's just these things in these communities because of poverty, not because they're Black.
No, and I've seen, unfortunately, that in many cases is the only opportunity for individuals to have employment is they have to go 10, 15, 20 miles away from their house on public transportation. I used to work with students who would have to do that just to go to school, because they received grants or scholarships that allowed them to go to schools outside of their neighborhood, but they would have to get up at 4 a.m., be on the bus by 5, and take 2 buses and a train just to get there. Yeah. And they wouldn't be home until 7 o'clock at night after they did some extracurricular activities. Right. How great would it be if that perfect school was just down the street from their house? Yeah. Or if that perfect well-paying job they only needed that one job, they didn't need 2 or 3 jobs, was just down the street from their house. Right. And so I truly think it is investing in the communities, and it really focusing on the residents in those communities is one of the answers. It's not the answer, but it's one of. It's just... Yeah, one answer to many that you could bring together to make some change and just lift these communities up. And again, it's you know, again, as Megan said, the last one when we were quote unquote condoning violence, and then we had to say no, we weren't. But that's not.
Yeah.
You know.
I was like, I support it. No, I don't. I do
No, we
not.
don't. It's not a thing. But if that's the only perceived opportunity, that's the problem, you know. And in any business that like, depending on who you talk to, the goal is to get ahead, right? It's to be prosperous, you know. And if that's the only opportunity that you see at prosperity, and you take it, there's no other opportunity. So I think it's I think you touched on something that we need to dive deeper into, really.
Absolutely.
And
honestly, I would like to just, on this little segment, I would just like to close on the next time online when there's a keyboard warrior that just likes to spew that on every single thing, that's just, you know, doing that, take our link and just slap it on their forehead.
There you go.
Take this link, give them a little facts, give them a little opinion. I mean, this is stuff that you could do research on. There's groups, look it up.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be that ignorant to just be like, oh, they kill themselves like all the time. Like, come on.
Call it out. I think that's going to be one of the, call it out.
Call it out. See something, say something.
Yeah. There you go. And I think what we'll do in maybe future episodes is we'll bring on somebody else who's much smarter than us on this topic, and we can.
There's nobody that's smarter than us.
Well, there's a lot of people smarter than me, so that's fine.
There's a lot of people smarter than me.
Good. Oh, Lord.
I literally just, my nose tickled when I said that. I think that was just the world telling me, like, there's a lot more smarter people out there.
Yeah. Very smart.
So, coming full circle, what do you want to talk about?
Yes, well, let me drink like Donald Trump does first.
Wait, I literally was about ready to take a drink, and I was like, I kind of understood where he was coming from, though.
I don't. No, he's not well. But so tying into your focus on the Black community, and it goes into the systemic racism of it as well. And we're going to be way over time, so I apologize in advance. Feel free to pause.
You better talk fast. I took control of this one.
So there's an article. So once you told me what you wanted to talk about this week, something resonated with me, so I had to go back. So this is an article from May 22nd, and it's written by Tom Hartman. He has his own radio show. He's written several books. He's amazing. If he were not straight and not happily married to his lovely wife, my husband would leave me for him in a heartbeat. He's brilliant. And I'll post the article to our page, because if anybody here knows anything about Tom Hartman, what he posts is super well researched. Mm-hmm. It's also very long. And so I took some points to tie into our arguments today. It's like we're in court. And so the title of it is, it's called "The Next Death Wave from COVID-19 Will Be the Poor, Rural, and White." And again, it's from May. I'll post it to our page. But the conclusion that it ties to the title, just briefly, is it discusses how white poverty in the South, which ties to poverty in general, as Megan was discussing, will when COVID-19 hits those states, which it is currently, if you look at states like Texas, Arizona, Alabama, Tennessee.
They're ruining it for all of us.
Yeah.
We did so good.
It's going to have the same adverse effect as what I'm going to talk about with the Black community, because through systemic racism with the white poverty in the South, it's actually Reaganomics that have driven poverty from red state to red state to red state, which Reagan being the savior of the Republican Party. Although right now he'd probably be seen as super liberal. So
yeah,
there you go. So I wanted to talk about how the sudden calls to reopen the economy are tied to the fact that we suddenly found out that coronavirus disproportionately impacts members of the Black and Hispanic community. So let's dive in. And I'm doing a sequential timeline. I'll try to keep you guys entertained as best I can and engaged. But
yeah, I was going to say, keep them going, Danny. Don't get rid of them.
Stop it. So, as we all know, the U.S. had its first confirmed case of COVID-19 in March. This, ironically, was the same day as South Korea. And South Korea is currently in a containment phase. So they've contained the virus, mainly because their leader didn't go golfing and repeatedly called the virus a hoax like ours did. Also, Germany's doing really well. Not Sweden. Sweden fucked it up. New Zealand is doing really well. And I'm just, life isn't fair. Why does Germany get a scientist as their prime minister and we get a failed reality TV show host? Like, how is that even?
He's trying.
Yeah, sure. So during the following month after that first case, all hell broke loose. The US economy tanked. In New York, cases were exploding. And at that moment, the nation was coming together. Maybe we can stop this thing dead in its tracks. We don't know how. We didn't know much about it. But what we did know is that it was perceived, everybody was at risk, as long as you didn't think it was a hoax.
Right.
Then came April 7th. So on April 7th, the New York Times ran a front page story. And this isn't people saying that the media is the reason that coronavirus is, no, the media is actually calling out and bringing facts to light. So this isn't the New York Times trying to cause chaos. This is just them stating factual.
Yeah, they're not stirring the pot. They're just straight up, facts.
I've also seen people share the media is the problem here, and that's not. Yeah. So the New York Times ran a front page story with the headline, Black Americans face alarming rates of coronavirus infection in some states. And after that, several other news outlets ran the same thing. Mm-hmm. So April 7th was the day that America learned that the majority of people who were dying from COVID-19 were either elderly, Black, or Hispanic. And not so many white people after all. There still are quite a few, but we're finding the numbers are showing those other demographics. And like clockwork, the right-wingers and their news people took notice. So Tucker Carlson on Fox News, who I love to call the trust fund crybaby, because that's exactly what he is. He was I'll give him some credit. Up until that point, he was the only one that was calling some type of attention to the death count.
He really was.
But on April 7th, he changed his tone. So as soon as this came out, suddenly, whoop. So now he says, we can begin to consider how to improve the lives of the rest. The countless Americans who have been grievously hurt by our response to this. So essentially, let's reopen and get back to work. Side note, Fox News at this point was still telling all of their employees to work from home until further notice. So
Blacks are dying, Latinos are dying, let's just get back to work already. Yeah, just screw it off.
All of this is coincidental, but we'll let you guys make your own decisions on that, right? So
right.
It literally took less than a week for Donald Trump to get the memo. And he retweeted a tweet. He was either getting his information from his daily binging of Fox News, because that's all he watches instead of actually being a president, or from his aide, Stephen Miller, which we'll talk about that racist asshat soon.
That is one person I can.
So on April 12th, he retweeted a call to not only fire Dr. Fauci, who literally is the person who's supposed to save us all, right? Yeah. And widely approved by the American people for his knowledge and his advice on what to do and what not to do.
Highly intelligent.
Trump wants to fire him. And then Trump says that he's the sole authority to open the United States back up, and we'll have a plan very soon. With most things that Donald Trump promises, there was not a plan very soon at all. So then, and this is really interesting too, on April 14th, so this is just 7 days after we found out that coronavirus disproportionately impacts the Black community, FreedomWorks, which is a billionaire-funded group, which is also responsible for the Tea Party, or in part for the Tea Party, where is the Tea Party right now? Where are these fiscally conservative Republicans?
Hello?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen them in a while.
Sure. So they published an op-ed on their website calling for an economic recovery program, which included an end to the capital gains tax, which I guess if you're a billionaire-funded group, you want that to go away. And also a call for a new law to shield businesses from lawsuits. So after I did a little more research, it was pertaining to the coronavirus. So when they make you go back to work, if they don't provide you with a mask, if they don't provide you with social distancing in your workspace and you die, they want your family to be unable to sue that company.
No liability.
Nothing, no. And so Mitch McConnell, or Mitch McTurtle, got a hold of that. And he basically said any future coronavirus legislation needs to have that. And thank God Nancy Pelosi's not gonna let that happen.
Right. That's why you had to bring up Mitch McConnell just really quick. We all know my opinion on, Donald Trump, whatever. Mitch McConnell that's the guy that I'd like to concentrate on. I would like to spend a many episodes just talking about him, because you are who you are surrounded by. And I think so much emphasis is on Trump that so many other people around him make decisions that affect our everyday lives. And those people need to be held accountable.
Maybe that's a good idea. So we could talk about Mitch McConnell and about how his net worth has grown exponentially over the time that he's been in office. Maybe in each of our segment, we'll do like a 5-minute cameo for somebody who Trump is surrounded by. And like, you know, we can do Miller first because he's in.
I'm down.
Mnuchin, we can talk about him too.
Yeah.
We can even talk about the Trump kitties.
Right? Yeah, because I always want to touch on that. It's just like so many people point their finger at Trump. We all have our different opinions on him.
Right.
But the people that surround him, those are the people I fucking hate. Just throwing that out there. You could get back on.
All right. So back to FreedomWorks now. So after they published that op-ed, they then published their #ReopenAmerica rally planning guide. So now you have a billionaire-funded group publishing a planning guide for a grassroots effort to reopen the economy. Backstory, what's really happening behind the scenes here is the economy did need to shut down because there was a virus that was running rampant through our country. And people lost their jobs. People claimed unemployment. Who pays that unemployment? Companies pay into that unemployment insurance. The billionaires, noting that depending on which state you're incorporated in, states can't print money. The federal government can. States can't. Right. So they need to find that money somewhere. So these billionaires will be like, oh, they're going to raise our taxes. No, let's just get everyone back to work. That's right. It. Yeah, exactly. So
like, screw that. Get back out there. We need the economy to start going.
Sorry, that was my random tangent. Also, Tom Hartman, I learned it from him. So, so this rally planning guide comes complete with encouraging people to go to their state capitals and the governor's mansions. And it even gives them guidance around the signage that they're going to need. So it says, keep it short, use messages like, I'm essential, let me work, let me feed my family, and also make sure it looks homemade. And then some people may have drifted a little bit from the guidance because we did see like the Karens of the world being like, I want to get my hair cut. I want to go to the movie.
Karen.
You know? So some people stray, and that's fine. Right. So the one rally with assault rifles.
Where'd you go?
And they came after our lady, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who I love.
I love her.
Also, side note, if you're going to be like protesting and rallying to reopen America, maybe don't wear a swastika or a Confederate flag.
Right? Isn't that the most anti-American thing? Like,
kind of is.
I'm just gonna grab my Confederate flag and my swastika and go like.
Also, all the people who are scared maybe that's why they're scared of Antifa, is because they're wearing their swastika and. Anywho, so I'm wrapping up. I promise. So Rachel Maddow started to report on the meatpacking plants.
That's my girlfriend, by the way. Sorry.
I love Rachel. She's amazing.
I love her.
She started reporting that meatpacking plants had become epicenters of mass infection with the coronavirus, which prompted the Wisconsin Supreme Court Chief Justice, a conservative lady whose name I'm not going to mention on here. She said that the virus flare-up wasn't coming from the regular folks of the surrounding community. Now, just noting, the surrounding community is largely white individuals. The people working in the plants are largely Hispanic. So when asked about that, her people said it was a slip of the tongue. But again, we'll let you all be the judge of that one. So wrapping up here, Trump immediately issued an executive order that ordered the Defense Production Act to reopen the largely Hispanic and Black workforce in the slaughterhouses and meat processing plants. What he didn't immediately do way back when he was golfing and all sorts of things, is
everybody needs to golf.
He didn't enact that same Defense Production Act to order the production of testing kits and PPE. So that was not. You've all seen the images. We have nurses in American hospitals wearing garbage bags as PPE. They have to reuse their masks multiple times because in the wealthiest country in the world, we couldn't do that for them. Italy.
It's actually disgusting.
Italy, those people look like they were ready for virus warfare. Like they were, they had everything. And
I was like, where are you getting all this stuff from?
Well, they have universal healthcare, so it's easily available. So African Americans were dying in our cities, Hispanics were dying in meatpacking plants, and the elderly were dying in nursing homes. But the death toll among white people, particularly affluent people who are less likely to be obese, have hypertension, or struggle from diabetes, going back to Megan's point, these are all conditions that affect the African-American community due to systemic racism in our healthcare system, access to healthy food, among other things. But the risk to affluent white people was relatively low. So, as Tom Hartman concludes in his article, Trump and Fox and his followers think COVID-19 just kills the elderly, the Blacks, and the Hispanics, and they seem comfortable with the needless deaths of people they think are different from themselves. Going back to the title, as it spreads into rural white America, where they don't have hospital capacity, capabilities, or the infrastructure that they're going to need, they are going to learn otherwise very quickly.
Wow.
So we need to keep the fight up for the Black community, the Hispanic community, so they aren't lost in the shuffle.
Right.
Because
Like
they
they
are the
always
ones
are.
who need the assistance and need the support. Again, Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
Lives matter in general, but right now, Black Lives Matter and Hispanic Lives Matter too. So like,
Right.
it's we need to focus
All
on
lives
the
matter.
situation.
No.
Don't make me repeat everything I just said. So that's me. I'm done. I'm good. That was long. Sorry.
Oh, God. It's about time. I was ready to take a nap under my desk over here.
Surprised you didn't.
I
So,
want to give a shout out to my shirt, by the way.
oh my God, that's right.
Sounds gay. I'm in.
I'm in. Cool.
Yes, I am now an ambassador.
Let's do that gay
I'm right
agenda.
there. Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
use a discount code MIHAN to get one of these shirts. That sounds gay.
Good.
That's the name of the place. That
Oh.
sounds gay.
We'll post it on the page.
We'll share it. Give them a little shout out.
So honestly, we tried to keep this short. We didn't. Sorry. Thanks for sticking around.
I don't think we're ever going to be able to because
No.
there's so many topics that are just like, we need to talk.
Speaking of topics, so if there are, obviously we'll have stuff that we want to cover. If there's things that you want to cover, post it on the page. If you don't want to post it publicly, send us a message on our page, and we'll see what we can do. We'll do our research, and we'll bring guests on. And
Yes.
we'll see what we see. And
We'll see what we see over there.
So again, like our page, so you can get all the latest and the greatest. I don't know, Meg, do you have anything else?
Share our stuff, comment, like,
Yeah.
give us feedback. Even if you don't like it, just give us some feedback. Well, I'll probably delete your comment, but just give us some feedback.
Comments, just keep them respectful and factual is all.
That's true.
Yeah.
And Dan, I still want to get a Snapchat and a TikTok going.
I don't know what TikTok is.
Oh, God. You're like an old lady stuck in a pretty gay man's body.
Well, thanks for the pretty gay man, but yeah, that's good. Well, until next time, thanks for having this Politini with Dan and Meg.
Oh, cheers to
Cheers,
us
y'all.
and everybody else. I gotta go refill my drink.
We're still recording.
Let's leave it in.
Okay, bye.